All right, kids, UnHappy Wednesday. Coming to you live from the 215 to the 513. This is Green Legion Radio's UnHappy and the MP. So, we thank you for joining us from wherever you may be, whatever device you're using to stream us, not only on YouTube, but also on Facebook. Twitter is still not a thing. So, we just found that out. Twitter X, sorry, I keep calling it Twitter. I'm an old fart, so that's where we're at. But we do thank you for joining us from wherever you may be and whatever device you're using to stream us, whether it's YouTube or Facebook. So please pull up a chair, turn up the volume, use the company dime if, God forbid, you're still stuck at work. Crack open a cold one if that's your thing on a Wednesday night. And let's try to have some fun as we put an end to day 3 of this week's hostage situation and look forward to tomorrow being Friday Eve. We are back after a week off, a little bit of schedule conflict, work, and some other stuff. The only day we would have really been able to come on together would have been Thursday. Mason ended up with plans that evening. I considered coming on to anyways. But ultimately, with leaving half-day Friday last week, I decided to just stay at work later and get a few more things cleaned up and call it off for last week and get back together, get the band back together this week on a Wednesday night. Mason, how you doing, bud?
Doing good. We had another little snowstorm, but I don't know if we talked about that the last time we got here, but it's pretty much gone already, which is a nice little contrast, the snowstorm we had before. But yeah, you didn't get it, but no, everything's been great. It was nice to kind of have a week to kind of refresh and to kind of unwind a little bit, but now it's time to get back to work.
Yeah, so those of you that don't know, Mason has been spoiled rotten with almost 2 weeks off of work, while the rest of us have been killing ourselves at work. But he will head back to work tomorrow, and we can all have a good laugh at him. Because that first day back after a long time off always really, really sucks. But
oh yeah,
who's in the room? We got Russ Taylor. There's some if you see them, point them out. Good Lord, Russ.
Oh jeez.
David Loeb in the room. Let's go. Looking forward to another great show. Thank you, sir. Much appreciated. Keenan jumps in. What's up, Buttercups? And here's Fanny. Hey, cool kids. How you doing, darling? How is the transition going? You said you were switching jobs. So hit me up. Let me know how that's going. I'm invested in all of you as part of our Midwest Eagles nest out here. As far as the show tonight, we'll read the sponsorship here in just a minute, but just to give you a little bit of an idea, we're going to talk some Combine. Right, Mason's got a decent guy that he follows on X. See, I corrected myself before I said it that time. Sent me that guy's info. I like the information, and just some stuff that I saw there. Liam and I decided to leave Sunday morning. We did not stick around for the offensive lineman. We got word that they were not even going to start running their 40-yard dash until a quarter after 1:30. And Liam had plans with a friend at 4. So 1:30 that starts. You're not done until 4. We're not home until 5:30. So ultimately, we decided to just get up, grab the free breakfast at the Holiday Inn Express right across the street from Lucas Oil, and get on the road and get back home. It's only an hour and a half away, so it's not a terrible drive. It's actually one of the easier drives that you can find. But so I did miss out on the offensive lineman, which I'm assuming is going to be our first round pick. So we'll try to pay more attention to that. So we'll talk that, and there's some free agent frenzy already starting to happen in our lovely NFL league here. So we'll cover some of that too, and then we're going to get the hell out of here. Try to keep it as close to 7:00 as humanly possible. All right. So. Without further ado, I would tell you it's Michelle's favorite part of the show, but she just went to pick up Liam from work, drop him off. Then her and my daughter are headed over to some choir thing. My daughter's not participating in this one, but she wants to go. Nice distraction for Michelle after some of the news we got today from private alpaca. And I will go into that in just a minute here. But before that, everyone, we are proudly sponsored by Cheerleaders Gentlemen's Club, located at 2740 South Front Street in Philadelphia. Just minutes away from the sports complex, Cheerleaders brings you the area's most beautiful women on 5 different stages. Open 7 days a week from noon until 2 a.m. and until 4 a.m. on Fridays and Saturdays. Also offering free parking, a full menu, daily drinking food specials, and a premium selection of cigars and a cigar lounge. If you're looking for a place to watch your favorite sporting event and you can't get over to the link, to the bank, baseball season's right around the corner. Instead, head on over to Cheerleaders and enjoy the 75-foot HD TV wall, as well as HD TV screens throughout the entire club. Once again, folks, that's Cheerleaders Gentlemen's Club, located at 2740 South Front Street in Philadelphia. Call 215-467-1980 to reserve a private booth and party package. Folks, bottom of your screen, greenlegion.com, scrolling along the bottom. No, you can't click on it. You'll actually have to go type it in. But head on over there. Early bird deposits, we are just 9 days away from the release of the early bird deposits being taken for the 2026 away trips for the Birds. That's Nashville. That's Jacksonville. That is Chicago, San Francisco, Arizona, Dallas. If bus trips are your things, hang on to your hats and wait for those to get released. There will be no early bird stuff. I don't think we do early birds for that stuff. To New York and Washington. But if there's a trip you're interested in, head on over to greenlegion.com. Should be March 13th, usually 10 a.m. or noon. It'll give you the option to put in an early bird deposit, be $250 to $300 a person. I'm not quite sure which one, but it'll be one of those two. And what that does is, hey, I want to go to Nashville. And, me and my buddy want to go to Nashville. Right? Just say Mason and I want to go. $300 a person, and that holds our spot for Nashville. Well, early May, the schedule will get released. And all of a sudden, the Birds are playing the Titans in Germany. or they're in Nashville, but the date doesn't work. It's Thanksgiving weekend, it's Christmas, it's whatever. And you just can't do it. But Chicago all of a sudden is, early October, weather should still be fairly nice. There's no holidays around. Bam. You can then get a hold of Steph at the Green Legion and switch your early bird deposit from said Nashville trip to said Chicago trip and not lose your place in line. If for some reason there are no dates or games that actually do work for you, I believe it's up until June 1st, you will be able to get a full refund on that deposit. Now, after that fact, you're on your own. After that date, that's on you. So you got to make some quick decisions. But I can promise you, and I'm sure Mason will back this up, you will not be disappointed. If you put in the deposit and the date works for you, don't hem and haw about it. Don't welch. Don't go back on it. Just go on the trip. Okay? And as an added bonus this year, I don't have all the details. I was hoping to get some of that today, but I know Green Legion staff and everybody's down in Clearwater for the Phils right now. With Quimby having sailed off into retirement, or at least semi-retired, retired from most of the road trip stuff. He's still very much a part of the home tailgates and the radio shows and things like that. But with him not being part of that, of the travel so much, we need a new Reaper. And so the Green Legion, an excellent idea to put out there a contest for who's going to be the next Reaper. Those are some pretty big shoes to fill. I've been with Q on a number of trips. I've had to fasten up his freaking cloak before. I've had to help him put his gloves on, take them off, put the freaking mask on. I had to get him a scythe when they came here to Cincinnati. So it's a lot to do, but it is a 3-year thing where you'd be able to travel. on behalf, with the Green Legion and be the next Reaper for a 3-year stretch. More details on that to come. Please follow, like, share, subscribe to all of our social media outlets. That is not just YouTube, but also Facebook, X, Instagram, and everything in between. Keep your eyes out for that contest. If it's something you're interested in or something that you know somebody who may be interested in, go ahead, and when that information comes out, there'll be some way to nominate someone or whatever, and then I think it's going to get put to a vote or whoever. I will throw my name in the hat, but ultimately I do believe this should probably go to somebody who is actually in Philadelphia, right? I've seen a couple of good candidates that have already commented. One guy, David Bergner, he's your guy that was on the news with the 10,000 jerseys he's got. And he's a really good guy. But it's a fun way to keep that thing alive. The Reaper can't die. So just because Quimby's not doing it anymore, somebody's got to pick up the mantle. And this is the way the Legion's going to go about it. I think it's an awesome idea. So those are your things that are going on. And that's pretty much it. My wife did drop in, mentioning that it is her favorite part of the show for the cheerleader sponsorship. Fanny says March 16th start date of new job. Last day at old job is the 13th. Oh, not even giving yourself any time in between. I always take a week. Anytime I've switched where it was my doing, I have tried to take that week off in between just to kind of decompress, flush out all the bad from where you're leaving, and go in clean slate. Michelle says, hi, everyone. Keenan saying hi to my wife. David Loebs with the, early birds. We've already covered all that. David Loebs says he'll be at the Phillies home opener with the Green Legion. This is also a thing. It's very cool. Keenan, I have Q's verbiage down pat, but I don't think I have the knees for that skirt he wears. Yeah, well, we'll see. All of our listeners here, if you look, I'm going to throw my name in the hat for it. If you'd like to vote for me when the time comes, by all means, I would be very humbled just to even get a few of you to do that. And then we'll see what happens from there. But without further ado, Mason, I take it you've never been out to Indianapolis before. I'm just going to get a wild guess.
Sadly, sir, the farthest west I've ever been is Ohio. So.
Oh, really? What part?
We actually went to go see Canton to go see Brian Dawkins.
Oh, you went to go see Dawkins.
We went to go see with the Green Legion. Actually.
With the Green Legion. Yeah, that wasn't it. So we were living in Nashville at the time. And Hall of Fame weekend is always right around Liam, my middle, around his birthday. So when Doc was going in, I believe it was actually August 4th. The induction day was actually on my kid's birthday. Now, had we been living here, where it was only a 3.5-hour drive, I still would have went.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that we were in Nashville made it an 8.5-hour drive. And he was only turning 8 years old, and and Dawkins is my favorite fucking player ever, and I couldn't go. So, but it looked like an awesome trip, and I'm glad a lot of people got to go enjoy that. We're definitely going to be there when Kelsey goes in.
Yep.
Hopefully, just a couple of years away. But so the furthest west. So you've never been to Indianapolis. Indy, I would tell you, very cool little city. It's small, not a whole ton of shit to do, but not a bad small city if you're going to go out on a road trip. Relatively inexpensive. It is drivable from where you're at if you felt like driving 10 hours. But they've been doing the NFL Combine there since 1987. Now, to your point, but when we talked pre-show, it's really only been televised for about the last 20, 23 years, right?
Ish, yeah.
But they've been doing it there since 87. And it is a really cool event. So it just like the NFL draft, it's a free event. All you got to do is get there, pay for your hotel room, your food, and all that crap. But the event itself is free. And Lucas Oil Stadium is an absolutely beautiful stadium. It is gorgeous. So you get there, and they only there's only certain sections that are open to general admission. Then there's you can pay for a better spot to go sit and
Right.
everything, but there's no need to. So we went last year on the suggestion from a gentleman that's part of our group out here. And Liam and I decided to go again this year. And it's fun. It's a good time. If you're a big NFL fan and you get into this kind of shit, it's a really cool event. Last year, Captain Demps flew out and spent the weekend with us out there. Doing the combine. We did were we there for Friday? I think we just did Saturday and Sunday last year. This year we got there Friday, did Saturday, and then came back on Sunday. But it was a good time. And the overall theme, and this kind of plays into some of these guys know, Mason, I think we've talked about this before. When you talk about the current state of the refs in the NFL and the shitty calls or no calls or whatever. And part of, I think, the problem is the game being never having been faster than it is now, right?
Oh, yeah.
And the refs not getting any younger. Now, keep in mind, I say that with all the respect in the world for those men to be able to run up and down the field with these gargantuans, right? I couldn't do it. And these dudes are in their 50s and 60s doing it, so it's impressive. But that game is so fast, and it's only getting faster. And to prove it, the position by position this past weekend at the Combine, they set average speed records for every single position, I think, except for quarterback. So across the board, the game just got that much faster again, right? Mm-hmm. And I would not be at all surprised if we went back there next year and they all set that record again. Mm-hmm. They're just getting more and more quick and stronger. And, just to see guys that size, you see these offense after watching a couple of days of defensive backs and wide receivers and running backs running 4.5 or less for the most part. And then you go see an offensive lineman and he's running like a 5.1 and you're like, oh, he's fucking slow. Do you guys have any idea how fast that really is? I challenge any of you people listening right now to go run a 40-yard dash in 5 seconds. I will bet you can't do it. Mason, maybe you, because you're still young.
I might, but it'll be tough.
I was young, it was not a problem. I was athletic. I was fast, but I'm 47 years old in a month here, so like 5 seconds, even 5 seconds flat in a 40-yard dash is hauling ass, man. And when you see these guys that are 6'6", 6'8", we got home and I watched the offensive linemen do their 40 times. You see these dudes that are just, they're 6'5", 6'8", 320, 340 pounds, and they're running a 40-yard dash in 5 seconds. It's like nobody that big should move that fast.
Jordan Davis was 6'6", over 300. He ran a 4.78. That's faster than some quarterbacks.
It's faster than a lot of quarterbacks. Yeah, it's faster than a bunch of tight ends.
Yeah.
Which I witnessed personally. Where's my
It's as fast as a lot of slower receivers.
Yeah. So some of the other cool shit they give you when you walk in, they give you one of these. Right? And it's for each day. So this was the Friday one. And inside is all the dudes and their groups that they're going to run in. And then you can actually write down their 40 time if you wanted to. So Liam and I sat there and did that. And Friday night, you had the tight ends. And a lot of them, 4.5, 4.6, 4.7, 4.6, 4.9, 4.73. So to your point, Mailata at that size, I mean, that's just bananas, dude. It's absolutely nuts. Saturday is the glamour day. That's your quarterbacks, running backs, and wide receivers, right? This is the day where the place gets more packed than the other places, than the other 4 to 3As. It's not just the lower level full. They start going up into the upper level in that one end of the stadium. And there were some dudes really moving, man. I know everybody's pretty well set that we're going to go offensive line in the first round, and I agree with it. But I tell you what, man, there were some safeties that really, really, really were just absolutely outstanding. Hey, kid, what's going on? Liam just walked in from work. Um, but yeah, if you've never, so did you do the draft when it went to Philly?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I figured you would. So if you get the opportunity, from what I understand, at least next year and at least 2027 and 2028, the combine will be in Indy again for at least I think the next 2 years. If you've got the opportunity, come on out. You would really enjoy it. I think you'd have a blast, and it's worth the trip. And it's not expensive, dude. It's Indianapolis, right? It's not like going to fucking California. Just the flight's not far. Yeah, it's not a long flight. And everything's pretty. I mean, we stayed across the street at the Holiday Inn Express for I think $450 for the 2 nights, and we were directly across the street. Yeah,
that's insane.
Yeah, and that's with free breakfast, right? Like, so one of my meals each day is already taken care of. So, did you watch any combine stuff this weekend? Were you paying attention to what was going on?
So, I missed most of it. I was able because we were at lunch, me and my family at Peter Williham's, and I was also able to go watch Jeremiah Love run this 40. And I turned my dad because I was like, "Oh, Jeremiah's about to run." I said, "If he can get under 4.4, that would be fantastic." That's like his. That's his. Okay, I'm taking a W and I'm going home. He ran a 4.37, which was like that's fantastic for Jeremiah Love. And so he definitely helped his profile. But I was just kind of what you kind of referenced a little bit earlier. There's a guy on X, Twitter, whatever, whichever you guys call it. His name is RAS football. His handle is Math Bomb. What he does is he does these little, I guess you could call it athletic profiles for these prospects, and they're all color coded. It's really easy in the eyes. It helps kind of understand what you're looking at. And so I was just kind of skimming through a lot of those profiles, and as you kind of referenced a little bit earlier, it is absolutely insane how, like, it's not even that the records are being set like every 5 years. Like, you'll have a freak athlete 05, and then it'll be like whatever, and a freak athlete in 09. It is, it's continuously just getting, every year you can see the improvements in the players. And of course that is because it's a passing league and we want guys to be smaller and faster. And so but I was able to go see the athletic profile for the 2 offensive linemen. I'm sure you want to get into that a little bit later. But there is a lot of freaks this year. And I was able to watch some of the little tapes on their drills, and it's scary.
Dude, there were the overall theme was speed. Just, I mean, literally every single position group had somebody or a couple of dudes that were just absolutely flying through this dash. I'll bring up one now. And Liam, my son, to his credit, he's the one that was like, "Dad, you need to watch for this guy." Oregon safety Dylan Thieneman. His measurables are comparable to Coop. Okay. Roughly the same height, same weight. Thieneman's faster by about 1/10 of a second. So he ran a 4.36 on his first run, a 4.37 on his second run. So a guy, so think about Coop, who's a pretty good sized kid, right? 6 foot, 200, great shape. Thieneman built a lot the same way, but faster. And then to watch him run his drills. So a lot of times they're kind of on the hash when they're doing some of these drills where they got to shake back and forth as they're going back and like they're like in coverage. And a lot of them, so a lot of them will kind of veer off the hash a little bit, just ever so slightly, right? It's not a huge deal. This kid was, I mean, dead straight down the hash, and it was just like every single drill, he was just absolutely crisp all the way through, right? Fluent motion, so the head's not bobbing around a lot where you can lose sight of the ball. I mean, he look, I don't know where he's going to end up getting picked. I know it's not going to, it's probably not going to be us, but that kid falls into the right situation, man, and he is going to make someone very, very happy. He's got the physical traits are there now, and I get it. A lot of people, it's the underwear Olympics. Don't read too much into it. I understand. I get it, but he also played in Oregon, right? So this is a school that is they're up against pro level talent week in and week out, right? And he excelled, and he looked fantastic at the combine. This was Friday night. For those of you other Penn State fans, Zakee Wheatley, Penn State safety, he chose not to run, right? Which I always kind of look at like, what are you hiding, dude? You know what I mean? Like, are you a step too slow, or he's running his pro day at Penn State? But the drills, once again, with Wheatley, very, very strong, right? Not the physical specimen that Tiananmen is, and did not appear to be as fast, but very crisp in his drills, right? Not a whole lot of wavering. Again, pretty fluent motion. I said my buddy Josh was out there. I was trying to point that stuff out to him too. Like, watch the head when they're moving around. If that thing's jarring around with every move his body's making, this is a guy who's not going to be able to track the ball as well because his vision's is all over the place. You get guys running where their head stays still. He's able to, the vision's better. And then to your point, pre-show, you had the Styles brothers, right? So Sonny, who was an absolute spaz on Thursday, we couldn't get next year. I'd really like to go for the entire thing. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and maybe drive back Sunday and skip the old linemen. But I'd really like to see the whole linebackers and everything too. So Sonny, do you have Sonny's stuff pulled up? I know you were looking at it before. Yeah. So why don't you give us Sonny's measurable?
So since the very conception, I guess, of the scouting combine, which apparently on the guy on X contracts every single prospect going back to 1987. His Sonny Styles' athletic profile, out of 3,215 linebacker prospects, he rounds out to the average of number 1. He is the best athletic profile of any linebacker since 1987, at least. So you're talking about a guy who has his hands are 10 inches. His arms looks like 32 and almost 33 inches. He's 6'5", 244. His vertical is 43 and a half. That's a 10 out of 10. His broad was 11 feet, 2 inches. His 40 time was 4.46. That's a 9.9.
4.46. That guy is 6'5", 240 pounds.
Yep.
That's a nightmare, dude.
Yep.
Lou Dominguez in the room. Good evening, everyone. Hit that like button. Always appreciate you, brother. Thank you for coming in. So then he got his brother, Lorenzo, who was the safety at Ohio State. He runs his 40 time in 4.28. And his second run, he went 4.27. I mean, dude, they were talking about that family. They were talking a lot about Sonny leading into the drills for the safeties. And then Lorenzo goes out there and he is just he's just a blur. The funny part is you're all watching the screen, the big jumbo screen, but it's delayed because that's the NFL broadcast. You look right down at the field and watch these guys actually run, and it's like, oh, mother of God, is he moving at? Is he hauling ass? Yeah, Lorenzo Styles at 4.28. So Ohio State kids, right? You guys starting to sense a pattern here, not just Big Ten, but you guys know the first 3 rounds of the draft, maybe 4th round of the draft. What do I want to see? I want to see picks from these big-time programs, power conference kids that are up against NFL talent week in and week out. The corners were not quite as impressive, to be perfectly honest with you. Some speed there, but it just wasn't. The safeties were the wow for the defensive backs on Friday night. Between the speed of Styles, the speed and overall, just ability of Tiananmen. The leader in the clubhouse for your corners was Toriano Pride at 4.36 on the 40. But other than that, like even just watching the drills with the corners, they were good. Don't get me wrong, but there wasn't like a holy shit, this guy is flawless.
Right.
Another safety I'd like to point out, and Shame on me. I forgot to write down his damn what school he was from. Kansas State. And his name is VJ Payne. And he ran his 40 in 4.41. And your guy that on X had him as a 9.86.
Yep.
We had the pleasure of that evening sitting behind VJ Payne's cheering section. He had a whole lot of family represented there. And then once they were done, he actually came up into the stands to talk to his family, and we got to, just speak with him. His grandmother was sitting in front of us. Every time VJ would do something, run a drill, she would turn and look at me and just go and point out there. I'm like, no, he did great. He did great. Like that was awesome. And he did. It wasn't a lie. He was really, really, he was very solid and a nice young man. Came up there, and his grandmother told him, she's like, these boys back here were helping me. And he looks back and waves, and I'm just like, I said, I thought you were great out there, kid. Good luck to you, And he's just, oh, thank you. I appreciate it. And very, very nice young man. So, seeing his family, they looked like really solid people. And he looked like a pretty solid young kid and had a nice workout. So you just, when you get to experience stuff like that, you want to see the kid find a good landing spot and get a shot somewhere. So I know I'll be watching for VJ Payne. I think it would be hysterical if he ended up on the Birds roster at some point.
Yeah, I was just looking at his profile, and it looks like he ran a 4.4.
Yeah, 4.4,
which is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good.
4.4,
yeah, he has a 9.86. He has 9.5 inch hands, 33 3/4 arm length. He's 6'3", 206. Vertical was 35. His broad was 10.07, or that'd be just 10 inches and 10 feet 7 inches. And then 4.40. He had a 2.55 split and a 1.57 10-yard split, which are pretty damn good.
Yeah, he looked solid, man. And then the individual drills. He was another one that looked pretty good. Didn't look very shaky at all. Some of these dudes you can tell are going to be like practice squad fodder when you watch some of these things. Like they're kind of all over the place. Footwork's not that great. They slip. There were a few guys that slipped, but nothing too bad. Over to the room. Keenan. I'll run a 40 and 4.4 for Eagles tickets this season. I think I've lost my hookup. Oh, no. Lost your hookup. What the hell? This is your dad, right? Construction in the field. Yep. Go Birds. Draft tackle and corner. I'm not against that at all, sir. But that tackle's got to be the first one, in my opinion.
I actually have both Caden Proctor and then the Max guy pulled up. If you want to, whenever you want to transfer.
Yeah, let's hear, because I didn't get the opportunity to stick around for the offensive line. So what do you have?
So I know in a past show we were kind of talking about relatively briefly the offensive line candidates for where we would be in the draft, and there's two main kind of options. One was a more safer pick, while the other one was a more boomer bust. The safer pick was Caden Proctor. The reason why he was more of a safe bet is because he's a little bit more technically refined. He doesn't need a lot of developing molding in that respect compared to Max, who's Max Hednaker. I'm just going to call him Max. Anyway, so Caden, the only thing he really lacked was the physical raw talent. He wasn't as agile as Max is, but nonetheless, Caden still scored a 9.26, which is pretty good. So Caden Proctor, you're talking about 9 3/4 inch hands. Arm length is 33 1/3, pretty close. Height is 6'6.5". Weight is 352, and the bench was 25, which for offensive tackle, I'd prefer to see that a little bit closer to 30, but 25 is definitely more than I can do.
Explain to the audience when he says it's 25 reps at what weight?
225.
225. Yep.
The record I think was Stephen Paya back in like 2011. I think he had 49.
God damn it.
I think he had 49. But so the vertical was 32.5, which for a tackle who is 6'6", 350 is unbelievable. His broad was 9 feet 1 inch, and his 50-yard dash was 5.22, which is overall his composite speed grade was good. Then we moved to the second option. This is the boomer bust guy. This is the guy who's not very technically refined, but he has a lot of raw talent. So Max, you were talking about an overall score of 9.87. So about like 0.5 better than Caden there. 9-inch hands. You have about the same level arm length, 33, maybe closer to 34 actually. Size is overall good. He has 6'5" and 6'5" and like kind of 7/8 there. Weight is 321, so he's 30 pounds lighter than Caden. Same bench with 25. Vertical is a little bit less. He has 30.5, and his broad was 9 feet 7. But here's a kicker. His 40-yard dash was 4.91, and then his 20 was 285, and his 10 was 173. All of them, his total composite speed grade was elite. So and same with his explosion. So Matt, that didn't really surprise me. Actually, the thing that probably surprised me the most was how high Caden scored. And a lot of that testament is to his size, first of all. And I think he really kind of, when I saw that 32.5 vertical, I was very surprised. And I think it kind of saved his grade a lot. So I think if the conversation for offensive tackle is between Caden Proctor, who is more of a safer, high floor, maybe a lower ceiling, kind of you know what you're going to get, versus a guy who's a lot less technically refined but has a lot of raw talent. I think this kind of, I think to me, it makes Caden look head and shoulders above Max, considering that even if you go with Caden, you're not sacrificing a lot of agility. I mean, Caden was 9.2 and Max was 9.8. So to me, yeah, it's 0.6, but you're still getting, I take a 9.2 guy who has a pretty high ceiling or high floor and low ceiling.
Yeah. Well, and then, like we talked about previously, the loss of Stout, right? So
Yes.
Do you really have another offensive line coach coming in there that can take a guy who might be a bit more of a project and turn him into what you need him to be? Or are you bringing in an offensive line coach who is going to be better off with more of a safe bet and can kind of refine some of the, higher floor attributes that are already there,
Yep.
Yeah, and that might be the better way to look at it from the Bird standpoint. Depends on the confidence they have in the coaching staff,
That's true.
and what these guys are going to be asked to do. So yeah, and that, we use those two guys as an example the last two times we've been on here talking about it, and those are examples. Those are guys that should be there when the Birds come around to pick. Okay. Now, depending on the ebb and flow of the draft, if somebody all of a sudden drafts a tight end early and it starts a run on shit where people start to panic. Oh shit, I'm not going to get my guy. There was a tight end. This is another Liam suggestion, and another one out of Oregon. He's sensing a fucking pattern with my son here in Oregon. It was kind of the theme of the weekend for him was Oregon, and I'm not mad at him for it. It was Oregon had a big year, but the who the hell was their tight end? It was Kenyon Sadiq.
Okay.
Who ran the unofficial time was a 4.4. The official time came back at a 4.39, which broke the tight end record that had previously been held by Vernon Davis. So again, back to that speed thing that I keep going over here. I mean, it truly, that was the theme of the weekend. It's just the sheer speed that we are going to see coming into the league with these rookies. And I think that is just going to continue year over year, dude. These guys are out there trying to break records and do all these things. And Kenyon Sadiq, he looked the part. There was another one. I should have brought my son on the show tonight too. I used to do that with Grady, my oldest. I'd bring him on here to talk basketball. And
I have a handful of tight ends on my end.
What you got? So here's what I'll tell you: is Kenyon Sadiq is not going to be there when we pick. All right, that's just not going to happen. He's probably far and away the highest rated tight end on everybody's fucking draft board at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a number of tight ends out there, and let's be honest, it's an area where we've got a need. So go ahead. You got a number of tight ends? Let's hear them.
So I kind of bookmarked these guys.
Yeah.
I bookmarked them either because they're 9.9 or a 10. And there's I have 3 bookmarked for this year. So we can go over to the first guy, Sam Roosh of Stanford. You're talking about a guy who has 10-inch hands. His arm length is about 30.5. He's 6'6", 267, and benches 25. Pretty good. That's the same weight as Caden, mind you.
Yeah.
His vertical was 38.5. And his broad was 10 and 6. So 10'6". His 40 was 4.7, which for a tight end is not very bad. And his shuttle was 4.37, and his 3-cone was 7.08. His overall score was 9.94.
Caden, I can't help you. Yeah. So that's a big boy to be running at a 4.7 flat.
And then I have 2.
This other tight end was. Go ahead, keep going.
I have Matthew Hibner from Southern Methodist. 9.3-inch hands. Arm length is about 32 and a third. 6'4", 251, benches 28 times. His vertical was 37, which is very good. His broad jump was 9 feet 8 inches. His 40-yard dash was 4.57.
Yeah.
Pretty damn good for a total score of on here it says 9.75. So I may have got that one a little bit mixed up. But and then we have the last guy here that I have was actually 9.92. 10-inch hands, 31-inch arms. Oh, this is John Michael Gillenborg from Wyoming. His height 6'5" and 6'8". His weight was 249. He did not do the bench press. His vertical was 35.5, and his broad was 10'8", and his 40-yard dash was 4.6 with a 4.22 shuttle, which is pretty damn good. But those are the tight ends that I had really kind of catch my eye.
Yeah, the tight ends had a strong showing. Again, some guys at that size moving at the speed they were, but the strong showing overall for the tight end group. I do worry a bit about a tight end that'll participate in all the drills except the bench. Like, why are you skipping that?
I don't really get too kind of strung up on that one, only because when it comes to the combine. So back in the day when the combine wasn't kind of taken as seriously by a lot of pros, nowadays these guys like train. They have coaches specifically for the combine drill. So it's not like they're just doing regular football drills and then I just do the combine. They're actually training for the combine now, and so a lot of them have decently stringent kind of workout schedules. A lot of them may be coming off like the playoffs, and so they have a little bit of a shorter time frame there than some of the other guys. A lot of guys like showing out at the pro day. They kind of pick either the combine or the pro day to really show out, and most of them pick the pro day just because it's their own coaches. They're more familiar with the facility, and it just gives them a little bit more time to kind of get ready for it. So I don't really get too strung up on whether or not a lot of guys just go to the combine, they run and jump, and that's pretty much it. And they save the pro day for all the flashy stuff.
I get it, but the bench isn't, for a position like tight end where strength is a thing because you're going to be blocking.
Sure.
Right? Like if a corner wants to skip the bench, I don't really care. I don't give a fuck. I don't need you out there out muscling people all that often. If a corner's out there skipping the 40 time, I've got. I'm talking about position by position concerns, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't like a tight end that won't go bench press, right? It's like, why? What's the deal? And hopefully it is just that, but. I'd
be worried if they don't do it at all versus like doing it at like the pro day, because like I said, it could just be a matter of those extra few weeks or couple weeks of gearing up or preparing or whatnot. So that could be it. But I totally agree with you. If he doesn't do it at all, it's definitely like implied injury type thing, or just something that you don't want to have to put on paper.
Russ Taylor, could be worse. I asked the girl out and she said I wasn't her type because I work in a morgue. 1 week later, she got hit by a truck. Guess who's dying to see me now?
Nice.
Damn it, dude. Final thing on the combine here. So Indiana won the national championship, right? And their combine is in Indianapolis. And so Fernando Mendoza was there. He did not participate in any drills. And if I was him, I wouldn't either, right? You're the Heisman Trophy winner. You're a national champion. The combine can only hurt you at that point. Right? There's no reason to do it. But to his credit, he was still out there with the quarterbacks when it was supposed to be that group. Huge standing ovations from the crowd, rightfully so.
Unlike Carson Beck.
So the fun part was Carson Beck. Single time he showed up on that screen, the crowd let him have it. For those of you that don't know, Carson Beck, starting quarterback, Miami Hurricanes, who Indiana beat in the national championship. So that Indiana crowd had no trouble letting Carson Beck know exactly where he was. And so we were having a good old time with it. That second day, we ended up sitting with a pretty fun group of dudes. One of them was a reporter for a newspaper or something down in Dallas. He was there taking notes and whatever. It was fun. A couple of just random groups of father and son behind us were Cleveland folks, and then these dudes in front of us. Nice enough guys, but I think they kind of drink White Claws and Zimas and shit. But they were nice enough guys. We were having a good old time, and every time Carson. So then what you want is, the crowd's letting them have it, and you really kind of want to see him screw up a throw, right? So, and to his credit, he was pretty lights out for the most part, Carson Beck. But, I mean, even the ones that were just slightly off where the receiver didn't haul it in, my God, that crowd was just all over him. Hey! Yelling at him. It was brutal, dude. Fun weekend overall. And a good time. I encourage anyone to, who hasn't done it, come on out to Indy. I'll meet you there. And it's a good time. Tried to get reservations at St. Elmo's Steakhouse. That's almost impossible unless I want to eat dinner at either 3 in the afternoon or like 10 p.m. And that certainly wasn't happening. But at that steakhouse, I've been in there one time. And, oh, my God, is it awesome. Indianapolis, their food, their big thing that they're known for is a pork tenderloin sandwich. It's just a big-ass tenderloin, pounded thin, fried sandwich. And it's really, really good. Liam and I went and had a nice dinner on Saturday night, and I smashed one of those things. That was pretty awesome. Lou from Dade. Lou Dominguez, not buying Carson Beck. Is the combine free? Yes, the combine is free. Obviously, you got to get there and get your hotel and everything, but the combine itself is free. You can pay for stuff and get more, like preferred seating and VIP stuff if you felt like it. But you do not have to. And there's all fan experience stuff. You can go run a 40-yard dash if you want to. They have that set up. There's the vertical jump, the broad jump. They have all of these things set up out there. There's a little podium where you can hold up your favorite team's jersey number 1 and act like you're giving a press conference and stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
It really make it fun and interactive for the fans. It was pretty cool. So we had a good time. Yeah. Lou from Dade, shrimp cocktail at St. Elmo is fuego. Dude, Lou, St. Elmo is fuego. That place is something special. Well worth the price that you'll pay to eat there, is what I would tell you. That's about all I got for the combine. Great weekend, fun weekend. Like I said, it was a lot about speed. Here's your dad. Construction in the Steve, how did you like your trip to the combine, pros versus cons? So look, for me, it's really, really easy. It's an hour and a half away from me. I live in a suburb of Cincinnati, Ohio. Indianapolis is an hour and a half away. So it's very, very simple, very, very easy drive. You know, especially once you get away from Cincinnati and the Seven Hills area, it just flattens out and you're blasting 80 miles an hour for an hour and you're there. The overall experience, like, look, last year we stayed at a Marriott where there's a group of Marriotts. The big one where most of these folks stay at is the JW. And that's a huge, huge glass building, and you can kind of tell it sticks out. But there are other, like, pockets of Marriotts right in and around that area. And so last year when we were here, both of my boys were with me. We go down the lobby to get coffee and stuff. And a guy comes over and he hands me this card, and it's like, hey, this gets you a discount or a free coffee or a free breakfast sandwich. I look up, and it's Matt Eberflus, who at the time was the Dallas Cowboys defensive coordinator. Wow. So here's Grady, Liam, and I in all of our Eagles shit, wearing it, right? And here's Eberflus with the star, and he comes over here. Couldn't have been a nicer guy. And, of course, me being the dickhead I am, I said, oh, yeah, thanks, man. Go Birds. He's wearing Dallas. I'm wearing Philly. We just come off the Super Bowl win. But you can't. So, and then like a half an hour later, Brian Daboll walked right through, like maybe 10 feet from us. Yeah. So if you're staying up in the area where the Marriotts are at, you'll run into players, you'll run into coaches, you'll run into agents. You got the possibility of GMs and stuff too. But yeah, I mean, you can run into all kinds of people. This year, I decided I wanted to stay where I didn't have to drive anywhere. We're just right across the street, walk right over, and that was it. Didn't really see a whole lot of players or anybody else outside of that because I think the Marriott is kind of the league thing. So overall, the experience is great. Now, for anyone else that doesn't live as close to it as I do, it's obviously going to be a little bit more of a pain. You got to fly, you got to do all these things. But, if you're into this kind of stuff, I highly, highly recommend it. And Indy's not a bad little city. You come out for maybe a little bit of an extended stay and go check out you can tour the Indy 500 track if you want to. They actually have one package where you can go and you can kiss the bricks, which is what the racers do when they win. So you can walk the track, which is something I still want to do and haven't been able to do it yet. But yeah, overall, great experience. Great experience. Keenan. Adam, it currently looks like the smart money will be on the Blue Devils. Does that piss you off as much as it does me? Anytime the smart money is on the Duke Blue Devils, I'm always fucking pissed about it. Okay? And we'll start getting into college basketball talk a little bit more next week as next week when we do the show, we'll be leading into the weekend where Selection Sunday happens. So we'll get into that next week. But yeah, combine, excellent experience. Highly recommend. All right. So we've been at it for 55 minutes here. Let's take another 15 to 20 if you've got the time, brother, and talk a little bit of free agency. One thing I find interesting is Kyler Murray. Now, Quimby coined the phrase that Kyler can't reach the Crispix up on top of the fridge, And this is coming from people like Quimby and I who are, 5'10" and 5'11" respectively, so we're not exactly giants. But Kyler, let's see, 5'8" on his best day, 5'9". I still think he was better off playing middle infield rather than playing quarterback. Any quarterback or NFL player that has to have a clause in his contract to make sure he studies instead of playing Call of Duty, I think he's a bit of a problem, especially when it's the quarterback.
Some might say.
But be that as it may, he's still a fantastic athlete. He is now being released. And this is going to be somewhat the Russell Wilson type of scenario where he's already getting paid. I think it's like $36 million this year. So unless he wants to demand a commitment from a team can give him a $1 million 1-year contract and prove it. And so there's some interesting landing spots. And I don't know if you've listened to anything, Mason, if you've formed your own opinions, but I've got two that I think would be interesting. Where do you sit with Kyler Murray?
So just kind of doing a preliminary kind of sweep in my mind over the teams that might need a quarterback. The first team that pops into my mind is the Jets, being that they just got rid of Fields as well, and so that poor team has been like the team that's always tried like rejected quarterbacks, which actually makes them quite perfect for Kyler Murray. To do like a $5 or $10 million prove it kind of contract to say like, hey, you know what? If you ball out, you ball out. Trying to do others. The Raiders are going to draft Mendoza, so they're not going to go for Kyler.
There is a school of thought where some people think Ty Simpson is still the better quarterback prospect. I don't know how, but it is out there.
And Mendoza?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I don't see it. I think
I don't see it either.
I think if you're a GM, you have to draft Mendoza.
Well, yeah, I think that the point that actually Ty made, and I think actually goes into his favor the most, is that Alabama runs a very pro style offense, so the learning curve isn't going to be as great, but he also just doesn't have the physical, intangibles that Mendoza has, and so in that kind of respect, Mendoza clears him. I'm trying to think of any other team in my mind, unless who did you have the Jets as one of the two teams?
No. If I was Kyler Murray, I'd stay the fuck away from the Jets. That's a dumpster.
I would too, but
I would just stay away.
I would too, but
so the two that I had, the first one's Minnesota. Now I still think there's a likelihood of a Cousins reunion there, but if they don't go that route, Kyler Murray, with the weapons that Minnesota has, he could do a lot of good there. Now, your blocking schemes from your offensive line have to be different. You're going to go to a shotgun offense because he can't go under center and see over linemen. But when you talk about Jefferson, Addison, Hawkinson, he's got a complement of weapons that he can get the ball out to. So I think that one is interesting. That's if he wants to go and immediately be the starter, because it sounds like Minnesota is moving off of J.J. McCarthy. Right, that 11th pick overall was freaking wasted when they took him in the first place. I was never high on that pick. I thought it was stupid. The other one, which I think long-term for Kyler Murray may make more sense, is the Rams.
Ooh.
So he sits for a year behind Stafford, right?
Obviously, yeah.
But gets to learn from Stafford and McVay for that season. Stafford rides off into the sunset, and now it's Kyler's job. I think it presents an interesting situation with the Rams, who, by the way, made a trade today that I am not fucking happy about.
McDuffie?
Yeah, I don't like that at all.
So just kind of think about the Rams and the Vikings there. At the very least, if he goes to the Vikings, it's at the very least competition for McCarthy. It's crazy to see kind of how McCarthy is kind of, since he just entered the league, like how his career has kind of unfolded is very unfortunate, and I kind of feel bad for him a little bit. But it just kind of seems like a transmission that never really truly caught on the gears very well, and it was a kind of failure to launch in a lot of ways, which is really a shame. So I mean, if Minnesota does bring in Kyler, I mean that's the beginning of the end for JJ if it's not already here. I have a hard time seeing him going to LA because coming from the first overall pick,
he'd have to be okay with
from exactly. So it's gonna be a very humbling experience for him, especially that first year being the former first overall pick. Guy had a big contract. And you're going to go from that to immediately just being a backup quarterback. I have a hard time seeing that happen. I think if it comes to any of those three teams, the Rams, Minnesota, or the Jets, I think in order, I think it would go Minnesota, I think he'd rather go to play for New York than he would sit.
Probably. I throw the Rams thing out there just because I think it's an interesting scenario. And long term could possibly be better for him. So here, your dad agrees. Rams, Kingsbury, Murray, but we'll see. Overall, he's probably going to want to start, just given the pedigree, what he's already been through in the league. He's going to want to
resume,
yeah. And in that situation, Pittsburgh becomes an option as well, right? Like, do they bring in a Kyler Murray? Like, there's teams out there that need a starting quarterback. He's just going to have to watch that he doesn't go to a team that looks at him as a bridge, right? You know what I mean? Like, that's a tough spot. So he'll have to pick and choose. He'll have to pick his spot very, very carefully, I guess I would say. I think Minnesota I think if he goes to Minnesota, I think he's going to be the starter. JJ
very
McCarthy
likely.
Not,
very likely.
JJ McCarthy is not the talent.
Listen, if he doesn't want to compete for the job, he should go to New York. If he's okay with competition, he should go to Minnesota. I
don't think there's much competition. I think they're searching for their quarterback.
Yeah, I can't imagine that happening to JJ that quickly. That's why I only really say that there's a competitive element to that. But if he's okay with just settling as not being the alpha for a year and sitting for a year, is going to have to swallow his pride a little bit. But then LA definitely does become sweepstakes number one.
Yeah, I just think it's an interesting situation that could present itself, and one that long term might actually be better for him. You got a couple of running backs out there. Super Bowl MVP Kenneth Walker is hitting the market. Most teams like to go with a tandem backfield. I think Kenny Walker is better served in a tandem backfield. I don't think he's a bell cow back. I think he needs that. Charbonnet, they played off each other very, very well. I think he needs that. They played great in the Super Bowl. Don't get me wrong. But, over the course of an entire season, I don't think he can carry the load of an every down back. The other one is Travis Etienne, Jaguars. It looks like Etienne will hit the open market as well. Both of these dudes can add a really nice fucking wrinkle to anybody's offense. I'm a little surprised the Jags are willing to have all right. This Facebook thing really annoys me. Sorry. I'm a little surprised that the Jags are willing to part ways with Etienne. You've got the long-term relationship with Trevor Lawrence, back to college and everything. I mean, they're looking for an upgrade. I don't think they're going to get one unless they trade out unless they bring in Walker. Or
I'll say this about the whole Etienne Jaguars thing. There is another running back on that roster I think they'd like a lot more, and it's actually a guy who went to my local high school. His name is Bayshaw Tootin. He went to college at Virginia Tech, and he was very reliable in the touches that he had for them last season. He had a couple receiving touchdowns. He's kind of a Doug Martin type, where he's only like 5'8", but man, he runs like a truck. And so he's very strong. I remember watching him when he was playing in our high school, and he was the fastest human being I've ever seen in my eyes. And so it was remarkable to watch him in person. And so I think that they might want to start, and he was a later round pick. I think they might want to start leaning more towards him, and they kind of view Etienne as a opportunity for a decent comp pick. He's going to go to a team, probably going to get a decent contract and get decent playing time, and it may just be a free for the 5th round pick.
So, I mean, Tootin, he was the reason why Bigsby became available, right? But is he a guy that you can lean on? Now, if you're just saying he's going to start and then you're going to have a decent guy there to kind of spell him, and maybe that is Walker, who knows? Yeah, Etienne has had his injury problems. He's not quite they're as reliable as you would hope. I just, that Jags team was 13-4 last year, and Trevor Lawrence took a nice step forward.
Yeah.
So, to mess with the flow of that offense, I don't know. I mean, obviously, Cohen knows more about football, has forgotten more about football than you and I will ever know. But I thought that was a little odd based on the big year that they had.
I think they like Bayshall more than they do Travis.
Yeah, and they might. And it's if they're willing to let ETN go, and maybe they're at the point where they don't want to give that contract to ETN, right? But they've got a guy that they trust. Well, why the hell am I going to pay this dude all this money if I've got another guy that I trust and I don't have to?
Sure.
And I can go draft a guy to work alongside with this person. I mean, makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Now you got two defensive ends, Odafe Owe and former Bengal Trey Hendrickson. Trey Hendrickson, who I think is he first or second in the league in sacks over the last 3 years?
Yeah, he's that guy.
Yeah. And just like the Bengals to screw up that relationship where now he's out, right? And it's just what the Bengals do here. And then Owe from the Chargers coming off of a loaded defense. You worry a little bit. Owe, that defense was pretty stacked. He's really good, obviously, but if you ask him to be your linchpin of your defense, is he capable of that, or is he good, but also the product of a lot of other talent around him? And what landing spots?
Was he the strongest link in the chain?
Exactly, kind of like that Georgia Bulldog defense. We kept drafting these Bulldogs. Sooner or later, you were going to find you run the risk of finding one that was much more a beneficiary of the talent around him and the scheme than actually being as talented himself.
Right.
You worry a little bit about that with Owe. I mean, he's still going to add huge value to wherever he goes. Hendrickson, on the other hand, was literally the only bright spot on the Bengals defense. Everyone knew that you had the game plan for him, and it didn't matter. He still got to the quarterback. So, I don't know how many more years he's got left in the tank, but you can see a good 3-year healthy contract for Hendrickson coming from somewhere, and he should make somebody very, very happy.
Yeah, Hendrickson is definitely a candidate for ring chaser this year. I don't blame him. I mean, a lot of the times players, they get out of the rookie contract, they go for that big contract that kind of sets up the generational wealth. And then they start kind of ring shopping to kind of finish off their careers if they are so lucky. And so, I don't know. When I see Owe, when I see Hendrickson, for some reason, my gut feeling says one of them is going to go to Dallas. That's my gut feel. I just see Jerry just opening the checkbook for one of these guys.
No, he's running his mouth about wanting to do that too.
Trey, if he's going to ring chase, he's definitely not going to Dallas. So he's definitely not going to want to go to Dallas. He may end up taking a little bit of a pay cut if he wants to go play for good old Mike McDonald. If he liked that defense a little bit, or go to a division rival to see if the Ravens could fork up a little bit of money, join that defense, and hopefully kind of ride that, help Lamar kind of get over that hump a little bit. Odafe probably could be the guy who you see kind of jumping ship going to Dallas for a little bit of money. And that's kind of where my gut kind of tells me in terms of this.
I think Trey's after the money. That's what he was after here in Cincinnati. He wanted to be paid. I don't know how much of that mentality has changed. Maybe if there's a suitor out there who's a perennial contender, comes at it.
Well, if he wants money.
Yeah,
if he wants money, he can just go to New York. take all their money.
I find it funny that Jerry's out there talking about spending big money on defense. Like, well, you probably wouldn't have had to do that if you just would have kept Micah Parsons. Fucking dumbass. But that trade annoyed me last year. I was more than happy with Dallas going ahead and just paying Micah the bag.
Yep.
Get 50% of their salary cap tied up in Prescott, Lamb, and Parsons.
Micah.
And, instead they trade him. They trade him to Green Bay, which pissed me off. Not only that, but they got back two first round draft picks. So it's like,
which they then traded again.
What's that?
They traded Micah. They got at least 2 first round picks. Then they trade another one immediately.
They went and got
traded
Quinn
for another
Williams.
Quinn Williams.
I forget what they gave up for Quinnen though.
It was a first round pick.
Was it a first round pick?
It was. That's why it like made zero sense.
Their own. So what they would have ended up with was 4 first round picks between 2026 and 2027 drafts. So trading one of them, who gives a shit? Yeah,
I
you still got
guess.
3 more.
I guess it's not very coordinated though.
What other free agents you got there before we wrap it up here, bud?
Well, on the list you had Tyler Lindenbaum, who is a guy who I've had a little bit of him and Creed Humphrey are guys I've had a little bit of a crush on ever since they kind of entered the league. I'm kind of big fans of them. Linderbaum, I think he's great in pass protection, which is really nice. In terms of where he could go, I'm always of the school of thought that you can never have too good of an offensive line. So if you have a good offensive line, make it great. If you have a great offensive line, make it top 5. If you have a top 5 of the offensive line, start building depth. So in that regard, I think that you might. I think the Patriots center just retired. So I think you can see Tyler just going right up there. I think if you have a lot of these teams with younger quarterbacks, I want to see them opening up the checkbooks for. Oh no, I think it was the Bears center that retired, not the Patriots. So Tyler could go over to Chicago, fill that spot, and help Caleb. Or if he's comfortable moving to a guard, going to New England to help Drake May kind of stay up on his feet, keep that jersey a little bit cleaner. But that's where I kind of want to see any kind of veteran offensive lineman. I want to see these teams with these younger quarterbacks because I look at these younger quarterbacks and I think of like, have teams not learned from Sam Bradford? Sam Bradford was literally put behind traffic cones. And then we're shocked that it didn't really work out. The guy tears his ACL and he's never really the same. He had a really good rookie year. People kind of forget that. And he tears his ACL and he's never really the same. So if you have a young quarterback, opening up the checkbook for offensive line is never a bad idea.
Well, and that's what you need to do, right? So when you have the young quarterback, he's on a rookie deal, you think you've got your guy, you need to go open the checkbook and surround him with as much talent as possible and try to sneak that Super Bowl into that window. Yep. That's the model, right?
Mm-hmm.
The problem is if you end up in there, he's not the guy, then now you're spending a shit ton of money elsewhere and it's not going to do you any good. But that's the gamble. Right? The whole league is quarterback crazy, which is why you saw J.J. McCarthy get picked at number 11. Years past, he would not have even been a first-round pick. Right? This is a guy who did not throw the ball a whole lot at Michigan. I don't know why he was drafted that high because there was no other quarterbacks to speak of worth a shit, at that point, unless you're talking about really reaching. And nowadays, with the way the contracts are for rookies, if you whiff on that, it doesn't set your franchise back a decade like it used to. Sam Bradford, who you brought up, he was the last one to get that huge rookie contract as a quarterback that really screwed over the team because it didn't work out, right? Be it for blocking problems or whatever, but it did not work out. And then he fleeced the league for years with his money.
Sam Bradford was the last quarterback drafted high before the CBA took into effect. And then the first, so Sam Bradford got a huge contract. And then teams kind of saw what happened. They're like, fuck that. We're not doing that mistake again. We're going to change the algorithm, the algorithm in terms of how these things are, the equations of how these things are determined. They changed CBA in 2011, and then the first quarterback that gets absolutely neutered by the new CBA for salaries is Cam Newton.
Yeah.
Which should have gotten, if anybody should have gotten that record-breaking contract for a rookie quarterback, it was probably Cam Newton.
Yeah, his physical attributes were off the charts coming into the league. He was absolutely incredible, Cam Newton. And he had that one big MVP year. Overall, though, man, This is a guy whose completion percentage was about 56% for his career, 56, 58. You know, it was the overall, it was the wow moments with Cam more than it was anything else.
Yeah, I mean, he threw like a guy who ran most of the time.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But so it doesn't hurt a franchise as much, which is why, you know, so the 2018, the Cardinals had taken Sam Rosen first round. They knew right away that did not work out. 2019 draft, Kyler Murray.
Yep.
So, and you know, now you're 2 years removed with McCarthy, who's been nothing but injury plagued. I'm convinced they're moving off of him, and I think they should. You know, they've got so much other talent on the offensive side of the ball. You can't just keep squandering it with shit quarterbacks. They should have kept Darnold. They really should have kept Kirk Cousins. But, you know, they wanted to go and try and reinvent the wheel.
No, Minnesota has definitely been a team as long as kind of I mean, you go all the way back to 2016. We had Carson. Carson was supposed to sit behind Bradford. Bradford gets hurt. Teddy Bridgewater tears his ACL in like week 4 of the preseason. Sam Bradford gets traded to Minnesota, which opens up the seat for Carson. And then I think that year, didn't Minnesota start like 7 or 8-0? And then I think they end up missing the playoffs, or they just barely got in. But
that was us.
No, Minnesota was really good for like the first half of that year, and then they just fell off the earth. And
they've been kind of that almost there team for quite a long time. I think
the earliest Minnesota quarterback I can remember is like Christian Ponder.
Wow. Christian
Ponder.
So when Randy Moss came into the league, and then, you know, once we get through this, we'll wrap it up here. But when Randy Moss came into the league, had Randall Cunningham throwing him the football.
Yes.
On the Vikings, which was fun. You know, you hated seeing Randall in another uniform, but it was a lot of fun to see a guy, you know, be able to sling it like that to a wide receiver that was just ungodly talent. Yeah, that was a fun time. All right, kid. Final thoughts.
Football is a passing game. And because of that, teams want guys who can keep up with the fast guys. And so their slow guys have to get faster. It's a movement that was started back in the 80s by Jimmy Johnson when he was the head coach of the Miami Hurricanes, needing to stand out for recruiting strategies. He basically just turned his, I think it was his slowest safeties turned into corner. Slow corners turned to safeties. Slow safeties became linebackers. Slow linebackers became defensive ends. Slow defensive ends just became defensive tackles. So it was this constant recycling of the more like
it's
hybrid athletic guys.
It's actually Bowden at Florida State that started doing that.
I thought I read a book that said it was Jimmy Johnson who popularized it. Anyway,
Jimmy just fucking perfected it.
That's probably what it was then. But nonetheless, so yeah, the combine, you're going to see these guys just continue to get faster and faster. And what's slightly worrisome is they might kind of risk pushing the limits of the human body a little bit more. The only reason why I say that is because you see a lot of the time in pitchers. If you ever watch a pitcher throw the ball in slow motion, your arm is not supposed to do that. And so I just hope that these guys can kind of avoid that. But Sonny Styles, was greatly impressive to me. Caden Proctor probably just put a stamp of probably our number 1 prospects going into April, into the draft. So definitely going to keep an eye on him. In terms of the free agency class, we had two edges or 2 running backs kind of entering. Kenneth might be going. I forget where we said Kenneth might go, but I think he might go to LA just as trying to help Omarion Hampton kind of be like the little group back over there, or if he wants to go to Jacksonville to help out with Bashaw. ETN will have to find his way. No team automatically comes to mind, but Hendrickson probably, if he wants the bag, he's going to go to New York. If he doesn't, he's going to go to Seattle or Baltimore. And yeah, I think that's all that's coming to my head so far.
Gotcha. Interesting baseball reference as far as the pitchers go. This is why you're seeing so much Tommy John surgery. Because these guys, the modern analytic bullshit tells you to go with it basically tells you to throw it as hard as possible with as much torque, highest velocity, highest spin rate, right?
Yep.
So what that does is it's just that max
stress
on this entire fucking area here. And that's why these guys are all the UCL tear. And Shohei Ohtani's had it twice now. And he'll be 31 years old. So if I'm the Dodgers, I would make him my closer. I'd have him as my DH for 8 innings. And then when it came time to shut things down, I'd just run his ass out to the mound, let him unload the tank for 3 outs.
Yeah.
Good luck hitting
not
that.
bad idea.
So final thoughts on this end. Combine is a great experience, and I highly encourage anyone who has not been able to go to make that trip. Indy's a fun little city to be in for a weekend. Enjoy all of that. I will be there next year with my son. That's the plan as it is right now. So if you want to come out, and for you Philly folks, there is a place called Hoagies and Hops. It's about 10 to 15 minutes north of downtown Indy. They are from Philly. They do their cheesesteaks exactly how they're supposed to fucking be. They are fantastic. It's like you're ordering one on Broad Street, folks. Other than that, yeah, Lou Dominguez, this is exactly where I was going with it. World Baseball Classic coming on in here. The Team USA has been doing their kind of warm-up games against some major league rosters. Was the Rockies today. Aaron Judge unloads a 453-foot homer. That's always fun to see. Yeah, 115.1 miles an hour off the bat.
Jesus.
Yeah, that's just a big, scary guy. But definitely looking forward to the WBC, hoping the Team USA can ride the wave that the Olympic hockey team set for us. Other than that, we'll be back again next week. Going to start getting it, and we'll get into a little bit of bracketology for the upcoming NCAA tournament. You'll have your conference tournaments will have started at that point. They'll wrap up next weekend, and then Selection Sunday is a week from Sunday. Going to be a good time, so don't miss out on that. We'll be back again. We'll shoot for Wednesday if scheduling starts to be a thing. Mason and I will work that out, and we'll be back to see you. Until then, folks, this has been Green Legion Radio's UnHappy and the MP. Enjoy your upcoming weekend. Be safe. We want you all back again next week. Don't do anything we wouldn't do. Remember, that bastard Judge is not back in until Monday, folks. And as always,
go Birds.
Go Birds. Take care, everybody.